The district superintendent and his staff do that. The board adopts tax rates, budgets, policies, hears reports, and takes action on what I like to call big ticket items. And running the day-to-day operation of the district is not that. We start our board meetings now in part with a recitation of our mission statement, but also wise and sage comments from whichever board member will be handling recognition. Tonight, that board member is our Secretary of the Board, Pam Watts. And not to steal her thunder, but she's been doing yeoman's service today, and I'm going to let her explain.
Our mission is that Midway ISD will maximize individual potential within a learner-centered environment and supportive environment to prepare students to excel in a global society. And as Mr. Rustick alluded, today I had the privilege of coming alongside about a dozen trustees and public education advocates from all over Texas and walk the halls of the Capitol building and go into some senators' offices and implore that they secure the resources that we need so that we continue to be able to maximize individual potential and do all these other things. We need fully funded public schools. It's good for our schools, our students, and it's good for Texas, and we made sure we let them know that.
Thank you, Pam.
Don't stop calling your legislators. They need to hear from you.
Indeed. Thank you, Pam. One of the other things we do is have a moment of silence, and we're going to take a moment for each of you to engage in silent prayer, contemplation, reflection, meditation, and particularly Dr. Allen told me just before the meeting started that Lorena, ISD Lorena High School tragically lost what would be a graduating senior in an automobile accident today. In your moment of silence, please remember those folks.
I was standing with Trustee Russ Johnson in the Capitol when he got that news, so it was
Yes.
very hard-hitting and really.
Thank you. Her last official act at a board meeting, principal of River Valley Middle School, and I say that because we had her back for 1 year, and we were grateful to have her for that year, and we wish you the best as you and your hubby move on to the next thing.
Yes.
Principal Allison.
Thank you.
With students from River Valley Middle School, you're going to introduce to us.
Yes, I am. Yes, thank you. I would like to say to the board and to the parents sitting in the room tonight, thank you for sharing your children with us. And to the board, thank you for giving us this opportunity to allow us to recognize these students. This is a hard task to figure out who, out of a school of 900 amazing kids, who's going to come and be recognized tonight and represent us. We've got a lot more coming from River Valley as well, along with the other esteemed classmates out there. But to help us with the pledges tonight, I would like to call up Davis Rutherford. Davis, come on down. Davis is our River Valley Middle School Student of the Year. Obviously, he is a member of the FFA and is going to be recognized with the group. Being a former ag teacher myself, it is amazing when you have middle school students who compete on the high school level and give them a run for their money. And that is one of the things that Davis did this year. He was first in area in the range contest and got to be a part of the range team, and that's part of who's going to be recognized tonight. And they went to the state level and competed, and he was 44th out of across the state students, but as an 8th grader. So we have amazing, amazing kids. He's just one representation of that. My other 4 individuals that I have here tonight, very involved students, but what is special about them tonight is they are 4 members of our inaugural Lighthouse student team. And so we are so looking forward to that they are going to be leading us next year and leading the charge and leading their classmates and making a difference at River Valley. And so I would like to call up Max Hopper. Max, come on down. You're going to go stand over there. And then I would like Harper Merritt, come on down. And Ava Korzal, and Addie Webb. And thank you so much for being here. They are going to turn and face, if everyone else will please stand for the pledge, they're going to lead us off.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good
I
job.
think we are going to be in good hands this next year.
All right, and next up, we've got recognition. We start out with the superintendent and May recognition days. Dr. Allen.
Yes, sir. May Recognition Days. Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month is May, and May is also Military Appreciation Month. May 1st was School Principals Day. May 1st through 7th was National Physical Education Week. May 2nd was School Lunch Hero Day. May 5 through 9 was Teacher Appreciation Week. May 7 was National School Counselor Day. May 9 was School Communicators Day. May 14 was Public School Paraprofessional Day. And then the 26th of May is Memorial Day. We do a lot of these recognitions throughout the course of the year. I can't help but notice that May is laden with school employees. Yes. And they all do such a great job of helping our schools run effectively and efficiently. And I'm not going to editorialize anymore about this, but to kind of tag a little bit on what Ms. Watts was saying, is the number of folks are being appreciated as part of this recognition for Recognition May dates, but who are actually included in the Senate's version of compensation increase. It's one group only out of all those being recognized. And so I think it's important that while we're recognizing people with words, we do it with action.
Up first then, Allison Smith, but you knew that. Principal for Midway High School, and Ms. Watts is going to assist. We'll let y'all take control.
Sounds great, thank you. Good evening, board members, and all of our guests tonight. I'm going to start tonight with U.S. Presidential Scholar candidate, Ms. Esther Kim. So Esther, will you come on in? We begin tonight by recognizing Esther Kim, a senior at Midway High School, who's also our current valedictorian and will be, I guess, crowned that as our highest ranking graduate on Friday. She's been named a candidate for the prestigious U.S. Presidential Scholars Program. Each year, approximately 4,000 students, just 0.1% of the nation's high school seniors, are invited to apply for this elite honor. Esther's selection reflects her exceptional academic performance, leadership, and dedication to service. Being named a candidate places her among the top performing high school students in the country. And I believe the last time we talked, you're headed to Princeton. Yes. So congratulations, Esther. We're so proud of you. Keep going. Okay. All right. Next up, we have a very special group, the MHS Marine Corps Junior ROTC program. We're going to recognize them they earned the Bronze Patrick Henry Award. And this award, sanctioned by the Military Order of the World Wars, honors exceptional JROTC programs and individuals who demonstrate outstanding patriotic values and leadership. Representing the Panther Company tonight are Taylor Haddix. She's on this far end. Oh, we got one certificate. That works. Then Lauren Saucedo, so y'all wave as I call your name. And then Carrington Moore, Katie Sonnenberg, Aaron Willis, and Samuel Wong. And this MHS MJ ROTC is led by Lieutenant Colonel Jake Urban. So Lieutenant Colonel, I think you're in the back. Come on up. You get to get in the picture too. Please join us with your students. We'd also like to recognize and congratulate Samuel Wong. Samuel, raise your hand again and wave. He received a full ride Navy ROTC scholarship and will be attending Oklahoma University in this fall. After graduating from college and officer candidate school, he will be commissioned an ensign in the U.S. Navy. Competition for this scholarship is exceptionally keen, with only approximately 2,000 of the 10,000 plus fully qualified applicants being selected. Sam's scholarship is illustrative of the fact that even though the Midway High School program is a Marine Corps program, our cadets are well postured to compete for our sister services scholarships and pursue careers in any branch of the military that they choose, if they choose. We are so proud of the Panther Company for continuing to set the standard for youth leadership and civic responsibility. Congratulations. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Congrats. And I get to keep going. So tonight we're also talking about our state vase artist. And so we have 8 Midway High School students who earned area gold medals and advanced to the State Visual Arts Scholastic event, also known as VASE, the highest level of art competition in Texas. And so first we're going to have Caleb Birch and Jeremiah Ocampos, Adam Eubank, Elise Snyder, Andrew Blair, who also earned a state gold medal, Bryson Robinson, who also earned a state gold medal, and then Isaac Callahan couldn't be here with us tonight, and he also earned a state gold medal. And then lastly, but definitely not least, Miss Stella Raimondo, who not only received a state gold, but also received a Gold Seal Award, the highest recognition given to less than 0.5% of all entries in the state, for the second time in her high school career. So congratulations to these talented artists, and come on in, Miss Abercrombie and Mr. Storm. And that was a lot of applause. This is Kim Abercrombie and John Storm, our 2 teachers that did this with our students. Thank you. Congratulations.
Middle schools. Yes, sir. If you want to have great high school VASE students, you start them off early. So let's talk about VASE Junior State Artist. Midway Middle and River Valley Middle Schools both had students at Junior VASE. From Midway Middle School, we have 14 student entries. 3 6th grade students earned perfect scores and gold medals. Ezra Hilario, Rasiah Douglas, and Adeline Pankinen. And then from Midway Middle School, platinum medalists are Caden Freeman and Katie Osborne. These students are taught by Gretchen Lamborn. There she is. And so this is Midway Middle School and their fine work. Okay. All together. Okay, from River Valley Middle School, they submitted 41 pieces from 35 students and earned an impressive 36 gold medals and 7 platinum medals, the highest number of platinum medals awarded to any participating school. Platinum medalists include Emma Campos, Alicia Griffin, Emily Wynn, Nate Vega, Jamie Zett, and we would like to have Adriana Crespo come join these young people. And that's your middle school state VASE artist.
All right, Jess Wheeler with our Texas Association of Future Educators.
Thank you. So Midway High School students recently competed at the Texas Association of Future Educators, TAFE, Teach Tomorrow Summit, demonstrating their passion and preparation for careers in education. First, we have Julie Denny, state qualifier and high school interactive bulletin board. We have Claire Willis, state qualifier for high school interactive bulletin board. We have Emily Dunn, state qualifier for children's literature. We have Michaela Willis, state qualifier for teacher-created materials. We have Ava Weatherly, state qualifier for high school interactive bulletin board. She is also a national qualifier in children's literature. We have Jordan Cleaver, state qualifier, high school interactive bulletin board, and she is also a national qualifier in children's literature. We have Elise Jones, a national qualifier in job interview. We have Juliet Traylor, national qualifier in elementary interactive bulletin board. Clary Oates, national qualifier, elementary interactive bulletin board. And finally, we have Bianca Phillips, national qualifier in elementary interactive bulletin board. These students are led by Ms. Vanessa Dulock. If you would go ahead and come on up. We commend all of their students for their creativity, their professionalism, and ultimately their dedication to becoming future educators.
Make
All
sure
right,
you bring all
Allison,
your friends. So-
back to you.
I'm back.
You're back.
Yes, I have to bring this back down a little bit. Okay. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and have her come on in. Nandini Kadakia. She's a student at Midway High School. She happens to be a junior, and she's here tonight for earning a perfect composite score of a 36 on the ACT. A 36 is a distinction achieved by less than 1% of students nationwide. She's the daughter of Vishal and Hiral Kadakia of Hewitt, is a National Spanish Exam silver and bronze medal winner, a 3-time Spirit of Midway Award recipient, AP Scholar Award recipient, Junior Class Student Council Vice President, Diversity Council Vice President. She's the National Technological Honor Society Treasurer, the HOSA member and competitor, NHS member, and is in the MHS Varsity Technical Theater. She is an active volunteer at the Hewitt Public Library with AbbVie, she gives back, and with Ascension Providence Hospital. She's very busy. Nandini is one of only 2 students at Midway High School this year to earn this honor, and her achievement reflects exceptional academic ability and commitment to excellence. Congratulations.
You're still
Next up, oh, me again, sorry.
No, I said you're still up.
Okay, I'm still up, yes. So last I have, finally, we recognize Karis Collins and Avery Hubbard. I'll have them go ahead and come on in, along with their wonderful teacher, Molly Sanders. Come on in, Miss Sanders. Come on up to the front. Yes. They advanced to the Texas History Day state competition with their senior exhibit titled Breaking the Bank. Their project explored the role of the federal government in protecting consumers from unethical practices during the Gilded Age. After earning first place at the Heart of Texas Regional History Fair, they proudly represented Midway at the state level. And of course, they're joined tonight by their teacher, Miss Molly Sanders.
All right, Mr. Wheeler, back to you.
So tonight, we're also proud to recognize 3 outstanding Midway FFA career development events that their teams qualified and competed at the state level, and I'll add that they placed in the top 10. There was an additional 36 students that competed at the state level, but we would have done filled this place up. I think we already did. And so it's an honor that each required that they had to place first place in their area before advancing to state. And so first we have the wildlife team, which placed fourth in the state, finishing in the top 2% of all the teams in Texas. Team members are Grayson Haynes, who also ranked 7th individually out of the 226 competitors. Hazel Davison, Ethan Blanc, and Bo Biggs navigated one of the most rigorous contests in the FFA program. They demonstrated knowledge in plant and animal identification, wildlife management, hunting and fishing laws, boater safety, and even equipment identification from pelts and skulls to reels and ammunition. So next we have the range team, which earned an 8th place finish at state. Members Davis Rutherford, Hank Barkley, along with Grayson Haynes and Ethan Blanc, showed incredible resilience in a contest that required them to identify 90 different plants, assess different pasture conditions while filling out a Scantron, which is kind of important because on this day, it rained for 2 straight hours while they were outside. So their determination truly embodies their grit and focus to be FFA members. Finally, the food science team placed 10th overall in state. The team Ethan Peacock, who finished 2nd individually out of the 142 students at state, along with Zoe Coatman, Haley Hartline, and Natalie McCollum, excelled in a multifaceted competition. They were tasked with developing and pitching a food product in just 1 hour, in addition to individually completing technical challenges such as math formulations, aroma identification, and customer inquiry analysis. These teams that you see here today are taught by our ag teachers Beth Zulhoff and Lauren Foster. If you two could please come forward. Each of these students has represented Midway ISD with excellence, dedication, and professionalism on a statewide stage. Please join me in congratulating these exceptional teams on their achievements. And one more time.
And one more, last but not least.
So we are also proud to recognize 7 outstanding students from Midway High School who qualified for the Business Professionals of America National Leadership Conference after their impressive performance at the state competition. So please join us in congratulating Haley Carlton, Advanced Accounting, Mila DeLu, Digital Media Production and Virtual Media and Promotion Team, Chloe DeLu, Virtual Media and Promotion Team, Jan LaBelle, Video Production Team, or LeBay, excuse me, Video Production Team, Aubrey LeBlanc, Video Production Team, Avi Olson, Virtual Media and Promotion Individual, and Sarah Whitaker Delgado, Advanced Desktop Publishing. So these students are led by our Midway High School CTE business teachers, Dee Dee Moore, and audiovisual teacher and BPA sponsor, Mr. Kyle Rogers. These students competed last week in Orlando at the national contest and can say that 2 of those teams placed in the top 10 in the nation.
Wow.
Wow. Outstanding recognition. Congratulations again to all the folks we honored. We're going to pause for those of you who have better things to do on a gorgeous evening in May than stay for the rest of the meeting, but you're welcome if you want to do that.
can come.
Anytime.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to actually give you, because we're all seeing the laws, is there anything else like that you should try?
Okay. Administration of oath of office to our newly elected, even though we didn't have an election since they were all unopposed, trustees. We would swear them all in tonight, but 2 out of the 3 aren't here. But we're going to go ahead with Ms. Watts anyway.
All by myself.
Well, yeah. You don't have to.
But Carolyn's already.
She is.
Just make sure you get short bites.
In the name and by the authority of the state of Texas,
In the name and by the authority of the state of Texas,
I,
Pam, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office
that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office
of the Midway ISD Board of Trustees
of the Midway ISD Board of Trustees
of the state of Texas,
of the state of Texas,
and will to the best of my ability
and will to the best of my ability
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution
preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution
and the laws of the United States and of this state,
and the laws of the United States and this state,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Let us not forget, in that same Constitution, it says that we will provide for free public education.
Here. Reaching to the choir. I know, but it's on record. Now it's on record.
All right. After each election, whether we actually have an election or not, at the first regular board meeting, following that, the board is required by law to reorganize. And under our board policy, we have the offices of president, vice president, and secretary, all of which are required to be members of the board. So I'll open the floor for nominations for the office of president.
Second.
Any other nominations?
It ain't broke.
Well, y'all are too kind. Hearing nothing further, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. Office of Vice President. I'm going to nominate Ms. Vick.
Second.
Second by Ms. Watts. Any other nominations? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion also carries unanimously. And last, Office of Secretary.
I nominate Ken Watts.
Second. Any others? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. And I do want to, she's gotten out front and center a lot today, but that's appropriate because again, you don't know how important it is to have somebody that can and is willing to and does actually go down there and engage those folks in Austin, and we appreciate that, Pam.
I want to repeat that and just say how amazing she is, because she really loves to advocate, and it means a lot to her, and so she puts a lot of her time into it for all of us, so thank you, Pam.
They needed to hear that Texas is the best music education state in the country, and we want to keep it that way, along with a lot of other things. But we start slipping there, and it's a hit to our economy, our industry, our kids, lots of other things. So I hoped if I told them it's going to get you in the pocketbook, maybe that will incentivize some folks. So.
Well, I'm going to briefly ask Mr. Witt to just tell everybody what he told me before we started this meeting about a perspective that frankly I'd never thought of as far as, go ahead, Colin.
I don't know.
You know what you told me about what the legislature does down there and what that does in the future?
Sure, so, I think it's important especially when we engage with these members down in Austin, that they keep in mind that every student we educate in Texas public schools in the next 10 to 20 years will be voting. Some of them as recently as, next year and the year after. So, the question for them would be, do you want an educated, do you want people who care and know what's going on in the state? And the other question is, do you want to essentially cede the battle for education to the, quote, other party, which is kind of the message you send when there's a group that says, we don't think we need to fund public education. Those kids are going to remember, and they'll be voting.
Good point.
I thought that was a unique perspective.
Yeah.
Thank you, Colin. Information items. We've got the Facility Study Committee update. If there are questions on that, we'll take them up now. The board needs to know and remember that the committee still has one more meeting, and then we'll be bringing the committee's recommendation to the board for consideration at our June regular meeting. So there's going to be a lot of time to do a deeper dive into this, but if you've got questions on this item, we can take those up this evening, or if not.
I just thought it was great that you sort of laid out in the slides the options that were considered, and you can sort of see the evolution of where that landed. So it was great to see that, to see the work you guys have been doing, and then obviously when we land where we land next month, to it'll help with the conversation to know where things have been. So.
And I just want to commend again, Dr. Allen, the staff, and then the great board that is doing all this work, the facility group. It's amazing, and they're very dedicated, and what we're given was very clear, and we could tell what you were thinking, so thank you.
Which ended up being part of the conversation we had this morning about making sure that our community is engaged in the decisions that we're making going forward. We're not just making decisions willy-nilly. We are involving our constituents in future of this district.
Indeed. And then we've also got the proposed new club as an information item, and if there are questions on that, we'll take those up. Otherwise, if not, we're going to move on to the presentation discussion items, starting with the monthly finance report and 25-26 budget update, as it were.
Okay, good evening, members of the board. Yes, first off, we'll look at our April financial monthly report. The 10th month of our fiscal year is behind us. If you'll look on page 77 of your board packet, real quick, I did want to point out on the report of transactions greater than 25,000, kind of there in the middle, you'll see under bond projects and expenditure to the Department of Treasury. So as a tax exempt entity, this is not a normal transaction. We had to set up a new vendor here at the IRS to pay, but that's what's called an arbitrage payment. So there's a restriction. When we issue a tax exempt bonds, there's certain advantages to that, but the IRS does restrict how much investment earnings you can earn on those bond proceeds. So over the life of the bond, we exceeded that threshold, and we had a consultant, BLX Group, calculate what the arbitrage payment would be, and that's what the $364,000 is to the IRS. So we timed it well. We issued the bonds when the interest rates were low, and then interest rates rose as we had the investment earnings there, but there is a little bit of a restriction on that. On the next page, page 78 of the financial report, here's a projection for the current year, fiscal year 25. We adopted a $2.4 million deficit, currently projecting a deficit of 1.4 for the year. Last month, it was about 2.1. A few of the adjustments were on property taxes, increased our projections for interest income, and also just our expenses projected a little bit down, a couple $100,000 there. Any questions on the current month's financial report before I go into next year's projections?
Just a question to make sure I'm right. We're at July 31 fiscal year end, is that right?
June 30th.
June 30th, so we've only really got one more month.
Well, this
Usually
is
in the
April,
summer.
so we have, right, May and then June.
Oh, okay, right. Usually in the summer, I know we have that long period where it's kind of a strange thing, and then that makeup, because teachers would start in August, and we would have that weird thing. We don't have that anymore. So we're gonna
That's right,
land-
the salary accrual for
Right.
the August days.
So we're going to land
yes.
pretty easily now.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
that's good.
yes. So the next page, 79, is a look at our budget, fiscal year 2026 proposed budget. And so each month, as we get the newest information from the ledge, we've tried to present what a possible budget would look like for next year, and it's changed drastically, I feel like, every month. But so we have two scenarios here on page 79 and page 80. The first scenario on page 79, well, there's three budgets the board's required to adopt. The Child Nutrition Fund and Debt Service Fund, those are a little more straightforward. The Child Nutrition Fund projecting a deficit for next year of $59,000. We still have excess fund balance there, so we have a little bit to spend. And the Debt Service Fund projecting a surplus next year of $3.8 million. That's assuming we don't defease any funds, which is a possibility. And when we adopt the tax rate in August, we'll come to you with that possibility. The general fund, that first column is, of course, the big wild card there that is definitely subject to change kind of day to day until the governor does sign a possible school finance budget bill. So this first scenario, you'll see, is a $5.2 million deficit. So this assumes that the current Senate substitute for House Bill 2 passes as is. If you'll recall, I know, like I said, we've presented lots of different scenarios, but if the House Bill 2 budget had passed, we were looking at like a $3.5 million deficit before we kind of looked at possibly cutting some things from that. But this raises it to 5.2, largely because we still have the 2% raises in this budget across the board. So 2% for every employee group like we did in the House Bill 2 version. We're with the Senate substitute, you're probably familiar that teachers are given a larger raise. So 3 to 4 years, we'll get $2,500, and then 5 years and more, get $5,500. And so that's way above the 2% that we had in our original bill. I mean, that actually more like 10% for those employer groups, which is great, and they need it, but we have to use those funds for that specific group. So for that group, the 2% raise was about $1 million. And with this salary allocation requirement, that increases it by 1.8, so 2.8 million total for that group. So that's why I went from 3.5 to about 5.3 deficit here, because everybody's still getting the 2%, but those groups are getting over and above based on that salary allotment that's proposed in the committee substitute. Does that make sense? So that's our possibility number one. On the next page, yes.
It's that in combination with the fact that the committee substitute took out the basic allotment increase.
Yes.
So that's also driving that increase deficit is HB2 had a $355 basic allotment increase, and the committee substitute has a $55 basic allotment increase.
That's right. Yes.
By the time we back out the additional contributions we have to make to TRS because of these increased salaries, how much does that basic allotment increase at $55 per student actually, in round numbers, kind of generate for the
and
district?
you'll see the summary of that in the last couple of pages here. But yes, so the $55 increase in basic allotment is about $600,000 to our district, but the increase in contributions for TRS and things is about $300,000 or $400,000. So it cuts it a little more, than half. And so, basically that leaves us a few $100,000 for those raises for, all those other employee groups. Right. Yeah. The salary allotment is just for salaries. It doesn't include.
That was part of today's conversation.
So maybe the increase isn't really an increase.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the next proposed, so our two scenarios, the first one is if the committee substitute Senate Bill 2 passed as we've seen it. This next scenario is if nothing passes. So in this scenario, we would receive no new revenue from the state. but we would propose a 1% one-time incentive payment. So the 1% wouldn't go into salaries, it would just be a one-time payment, so that if we do pass this in June and say there's a special session and they come back and they add things to current salaries, it would be their current salary, not anything above that. This would just be a 1%, just so there's something in the budget for compensation increase. And so that, you'll see the general fund there, and that first column would be a 5.7 million deficit for next year. So those are kind of the two scenarios. And a reminder of the timeline, at the first part of June, we'll post the budget in the paper, and then in the June board meeting, we'll bring it for adoption. And then, of course, whatever we do adopt, we can come back, if there's a budget bill that's passed, we can come back later and amend that in July or August.
I have a question that's sort of asking you, Wesley, as well as Dr. Allen, to get your crystal ball out a bit, because I know that, you know, when we get into this time of the year in years past and we look at where we are on adopted budget versus where we think we're going to end up, we have seen, as we just saw, you know, we adopted a budget at $2.5 billion deficit projected in the budget, and we do better than that through the course of the year, and we've done that in years past. Under either one of these are both over $5 million. In light of everything else that's gone on with inflation and all that, do you think that either one of these, assuming that that's where we end up with the legislature and the board adopting a budget, are we going to, by the end of that fiscal year, shave that down to half of $5 million? Or times, my sense of it is we'll probably do a little better. We usually do, but I don't think it's going to be on the magnitude that we've seen in the past, because I just think it's that much tighter. But I don't look at it as closely as you guys do. That's why I'm asking the question.
Typically, Dr. Allen, I've looked at it before, typically finish about $1 million better than what we had adopted. Of course, there's so many variables and factors. I mean, our, you know, WADA is a big part of that, and these projections assume just a flat WADA. So if our enrollment moves up, or some of those weighted, you know, categories move up, then that could change. Also, I'm thinking about, I did want to add in the first scenario, that 5.2 deficit. I did find out, since we posted this, that part of the special ed evaluation funding, so we'll get $1,000 per evaluation. That's about $300,000, and we will get that. I wasn't sure if we get that in the first biennium, but we will receive that. So actually, we're down to 4.9. So there you go. And then I should add too, in this committee substitute, there is a drastic change in how SPED is funded. So it's going to be changed to intensity of services. And there's a big, if you look on page actually 81 of your pack, 81 and 82 kind of just have a summary of the committee substitute for House Bill 2. There is, so overall the total bill is $8 billion, you see there at the top. And special ed is $1.3 billion, and they're still fleshing out how that's going to be funded. And so this scenario here in the first year of the biennium, fiscal year 26, doesn't have any increase in special ed funding. It's hard to say what that's going to be in the second year. Based on $1.3 billion, I would estimate, you know, $500,000 to $1 million. So that second year of the biennium will look a little bit, should look better. So 27 should look better than 26. And then to this, just kind of goes over the summary of how those funds are allocated in this budget bill. The $8 billion is the same as the House, so that's actually a great number. It's just, as Dr. Allen mentioned, $4.2 billion is in that salary allotment, that teacher compensation, which again is great, is needed, but it doesn't give us flexibility for those other groups of employees. School, let me look, the school safety allotment is going to go up, so I think that's going to increase about $230,000. It's about going to double what we receive currently, which still doesn't obviously cover all of our school safety needs, but that is another increase proposed in this bill. So any other questions?
Are we still even tracking a version of this with some of the more original House Bill 2 numbers in there, or do we think that train sailed and it's time to look at something else?
I want to make sure I understand the question.
Just
here.
if we're
Are we still?
tracking another version of this budget that assumes if the original House Bill 2 were to be restored in conference or something, is it even worth looking at that anymore as an option?
I would be surprised if we got back to where HB2 started.
Okay.
But what I would tell you is if we did, those are some numbers that we ran, was it last month, Wesley, or month
That's that
before?
three-
Like,
that-
we
that
have those.
$2.5 to $3 million number.
Yeah,
that we're
we
talking about.
have those. If they just said, forget it, we're going to give the House, like, we're going to go back to what the House proposed, then we've got those numbers more or less. They also had some sped funding in there that we'd have to wait to get details on, but we kind of have that scenario run.
Okay. And then being different for us this year, since fiscal year starts July 1, we've got to have a budget. We don't have any luxury at all to wait and see really what happens even in June, or if there's a special session or anything. And we have to plant a flag in the ground and say, this is our budget. So what happens to us if we do that? And then there's a pretty dramatic change in the funding mechanism from the state. And what are our options to amend or not? Because I know that with salaries,
Yeah.
once that's in the contract, we can't change that, right?
So so if we don't have anything out of the ledge at all, what we will come to the board with in June is a budget that shows a 1% one-time payout by way of recruitment retention.
The second one that's in here. Okay.
So that if something else were to happen, it would leave us some flexibility with how to manage our compensation package for our staff.
Okay.
I think that's a smart thing to do. I was going to say, way to work with it and try to figure out a way to make sure our people get an increase. But then we don't know the future, so no worse. We're not stuck to something or have to add on top of that. So that's a smart idea.
It's worth noting that on both of the scenarios that Wesley has showed you, they assume 0 increase in contribution to health benefits.
Oh, wow.
So that-
Zero. So when we're talking about our staff getting a bump, 1-2%,
Yeah.
we won't know what that is till the beginning of June. June 3rd, I think is the actual date. And we don't know. In years it's gone up quite a bit, in other years it's kind of stayed flat. But all of these numbers assume no increase to contribution for staff.
Yeah. So that'll come out of their pocket.
Yes,
Come out
ma'am?
of the money we give them, yeah.
Is it worth noting that there's teacher pay increases in both the House and the Senate bill?
Ms. Watts, that is an exceptional point and a piece of information I think is lost in the dialogue, is that even in HB2, there's a $355 basic allotment increase, but a requirement that 40%, at least 40% of that is used on teachers.
Right.
So it's in there. It just creates the flexibility for boards and local communities to figure out how to manage it from there. So, yes.
Well, and we're able to take care of all of our staff, not just our instructional staff.
Which is important.
Other questions? All right. On the technology update, Ms. Roden, I'm going to let Mr. Garn present first, and then we're going to let you speak. Is that okay? Thank you.
Thanks, guys. This work. Thank you for presumably wanting a technology update tonight. So here are the items I'd like to present to you tonight. I'm going to start with one-to-one device status. So we've completed our first school year. In fact, we just did iPad collection at our secondary campuses Friday, Monday, and today. It's been a really good year with really minimal issues. We've been happy with the way they're holding up and their performance. Over 9,600 iPads in the wild, we've only done 95 repairs, so that's really good. That's less than 1%. Typically, we see between 3 and 5% breakage, so that really speaks to the build quality of this fleet, so we're real happy with that. Also happy to report that we received our final check for sale of last year's iPads following the final grading. And we were able to make $1 million back on that sale. So that's really good. Remember, those iPads were used by staff and students for 4 years and still held value in the secondary market. It really speaks to that total cost of ownership equation we talked about last time and how iPads really were the best value to the district, especially when compared to other platforms like Chromebooks, who have virtually no value in the secondary market. So we've completed almost 3,800 work orders so far this year, our team has. It's just shy of last year's numbers by a touch, and that's the first time I've ever seen that. So digging deeper, looking at the categories, you'll notice Apple devices, so that's iPad repairs mostly, went down 37%. So I think that's where most of that decrease went. So again, it speaks to this good build quality has actually resulted in less downtime and less work for our techs. You guys have all heard this before, but you know E-Rate is a federal program that provides funding to schools to help with the cost of internet, also costs for internal network connections. The amount of our discount corresponds to the percent of our students who are eligible for free or reduced lunches. We're at 36% free and reduced lunch, so that is a 60% discount. Any item that's E-Rate eligible that costs $1 would cost 40 cents to the district. So we leverage that every chance we get. This year, we have applied for and have been approved for funding for our internet circuits, the dark fibers that connect most of our campuses, and for the maintenance for our privately owned fibers. Those items are in tonight's consent agenda. We're still waiting for approval for a handful of network switches and for Wi-Fi service on our trip buses. I've never seen it take this long. I think stuff in the federal government right now is just taking longer. Usually by now, we've got our items in hand and are ready for summer refresh. So it could be the case that I get approved later on and bring it to you later. There is a case sitting with the Supreme Court right now. Interesting, we brought it up last year and it's still pending, but I'll bring it up again. It questions the funding model of E-Rate, really is what it does. Everything I've read leads me to believe this case will be dismissed. I listened to some of the hearing. The justices really appreciate the level in which schools depend on this funding. Here in Midway alone, since 2021, we've received over $1 million in funding toward internet service and network equipment. So losing that funding would be a major blow to our budget, but I really don't expect that to happen. We do expect a decision on this in late June or early July, and when I get that, I'll keep you posted. We leverage a third-party cyber firm to run perimeter scans on our network each month, and I'm happy to report they have yet to discover a vulnerability. We also have them perform an internal audit once per year. That's where we provide them with a network drop and a student-level access, and they run vulnerability scanning tools against our systems, and they try to find some way to circumvent our system or gain unauthorized access to our systems. Happy to report again that Sinira was unable to obtain unauthorized access to any of our systems. I would say this really speaks to the hard work that our engineers put into keeping our systems patched and up to date. A really big project we've been working on is upgrading our access control system. Our current system has been problematic as of late, and vendor support has not been very helpful, which caused us to start looking. It's very much a case of you get what you pay for. We don't currently pay anything for our access control system. It came bundled with our old VMS, which is great, but it's a security issue, and we can do better. So we started demoing systems. We demoed several this spring. We've selected a platform called OnGuard by Lenel S2. What's cool about this platform is it will integrate with our existing camera systems, and it'll give administrators that single pane of glass, if you will, for managing cameras, doors, and vape detectors. Also part of the upgrade, we plan to configure alerts for propped and forced doors for every external door in the district. We also plan to retire all of our old key cards and issue new ones that are more secure. And we're working with Emily's team on a brand new card template, one that's easily distinguishable from the old template, so you can see at a distance that it's the newer and the old one. We're going to start this work next month, and we anticipate having it all completed before teachers arrive in August.
Jesse, on the topic of security, do we have the firm still testing the phishing attacks and social vectors as well? I mean, are we still?
Yeah, we do that in-house.
Oh, you do that in-house?
We do
Okay.
phishing in-house, yes, sir.
Okay. I know I've seen a few that I've forwarded to your teams.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you caught it. The Facility Study Committee is currently considering items to be included in a potential bond package. You guys know this. We have some technology items on the table for consideration. And speaking with Dr. Allen, one thing I really wanted to include here is the impact that shifting these purchases into a bond could have on our M&O funds over the next 5 years. We've really only included items that are necessary to maintain our status quo. In other words, items that are either already in our annual budget or that we have to find a way to fund otherwise. Things like our data center gear, iPads, teacher computers. And the point here is that shifting all these items into INS would relieve about $8 million from the general fund over 5 years. That's kind of a one-off slide, but I just thought it'd be important to include here. Here are some of the major summer projects we have going on this year. We are in the 4th year of our 5-year teacher computer refresh plan. This summer, we plan on replacing around 150 old VDI workstations with Dell all-in-one PCs at Hewitt Elementary, Castleman Creek, and South Bosque Elementary Schools. This project also includes installing new AV cabling and new document cameras in each of those classrooms. We are also migrating to a new firewall platform this summer. We were able to get new hardware and software support for a year on a pair of Cisco firewalls for $22,000 less than a 1-year extension on our old platform. So we jumped on the opportunity. And finally, we'll be working with a vendor most of the summer to complete that access control project that I discussed earlier. So I just want to thank you guys, obviously for your time and attention tonight, but also just for your support over the years for technology. You know, I often tell the guys that we're able to, we can handle any problem that comes our way. And that confidence that I have in telling them, and I do have confidence in that. A lot of it is because I'm blessed to work with a very talented team of technology professionals, but also that I feel very well supported by our admin team and by this board. So thank you very much. It means a lot to us. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer those.
Questions for Jesse?
Are we gonna get a report anytime soon about how the new bathroom sensors are working, like an update, or did y'all do that at the last meeting and I missed it?
No, you didn't miss it.
Okay.
We wanted to get to the end of the school
Right,
year
that's what I
and
thought.
bring back what
Give it to us
else.
this summer.
Anecdotally, I'll tell you, and Allison, you're sitting there, they're having an impact on the way student behaviors are being shaped at the high school. But we'll get you a more comprehensive, we want to pull all the middle high school data together and break that down for you. That'll be over the summer.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yes, ma'am.
Sure.
I would
Okay.
say it's gone well. Every once in a while, we'll have a vape sensor that goes crazy. We have to go restart it. But with 87 vape sensors, that's kind of to be expected. They've been pretty solid. Support's been good. As to the results, I would look to that team here. I think they've been good.
And it's been 2 months now, 3? When did all that get installed? In January?
Before the first of the year.
January, okay.
We
Can you-
did the high school before that, but by the time all the secondary campuses were online, we were back from Christmas break.
Okay. And the community's been good with that? We haven't had
No, ma'am?
any negativity or much negativity? Okay, good, good. Thank you.
Are we, I know we have someone to speak. Is it appropriate for us to wait to ask questions after, or should we ask ours now? I don't know.
Well, go ahead, because I think Ms. Roten has a different perspective she wants to give the board.
Okay,
Is that fair?
that's fine. I'll ask just a couple questions, and some of these we've covered in an email thread a week or two ago. It's
Okay,
just
yeah.
sort of to get out so people will know the conversation. So one of those was about, and I know we talked about this in the technology committee meeting as well too, about some of the tools that let parents really watch and monitor what's going on, really up to, within a few minutes of their kid's device. And so what, you've been piloting a project and we're looking at next year,
Yeah.
like what is the,
I almost considered, I considered adding it to tonight's report. The thing is, they've pushed this update from our content filter company to, they're calling it late summer. I mean, for me, that's July.
Yeah.
By the seasons, that could be September. So I didn't want to show you a new product that I may not be able to do. But we're in beta testing now. I can manually enroll you, and I really, really do like it. It's called Lightspeed Parent Portal. And when they release this feature to me, I can automate the onboarding of every parent into this portal, and you'll be able to generate your own report of every bit of web activity from your child's device at home or at school. And if you just wanted to be completely hands-off on it, you can configure it to send you a weekly PDF of everything that you could scroll through. And you can sort it by, show me everything that's blocked and now my Google searches and all that thing. So it provides a layer of transparency that I'm excited to provide to parents. But that update that's going to allow me to automate it, like if you had a one-off right now that we needed to watch, let me know. I can manually enroll it and we can work through it. I've done that for 5 or 6 folks and it's been great results. But the automation piece that's going to let me do it for 8,000 is coming late summer.
Wow. That's
even when they have our device at home?
That's right.
They can still see, so kids taking it to their room or something, the parents could still see what's happening on that device. Is
That's
that
right. Yeah, the filtering on those devices actually takes place on the device, so it doesn't matter which Wi-Fi you're on, you're gonna get filtered.
Wow.
Interesting. Okay.
Oh.
Very good. That was, I think that was the main conversation we had. I know, although we did have a conversation, and maybe it was with Ms. Parks' folks more about the Parent Square question, which was about, really connected to, I think, the cell phone conversation. So maybe it's a different conversation, but about whether Parent Square allows parents to contact students directly through Student Square and Parent Square, and the answer was no at this
That's
point,
correct.
right?
That's correct.
Just making sure that was where we were on that.
All right.
Thank you, Colin.
Anybody else?
All right, Ms. Roden.
Thank you.
You've read our policy on comments from the public. You know, you have 3 minutes, and we won't interrupt you with questions, but we might have questions at the end.
Okay, good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Allie Roten, and I am a parent of a kindergartner at South Bosque Elementary, my first child in the Midway school system. Before the school year began, I made the decision to decline the iPad for my child. I reviewed the research, and while there are some educational benefits, the overwhelming concerns from screen dependency to mental and emotional health made me feel the risks weren't worth it for my 6-year-old. I agreed only to allow limited use for district testing after receiving a phone call under direct teacher supervision. We explained our reasons to our child, and he understood. However, he was later given the iPad outside of that by a substitute and came home saying, and I quote, "Something scary popped up." He said, "I swiped away from it, but what he saw, I still don't know." I understand there are filters, but filters can't match the judgment of a parent or teacher who knows what's appropriate for each child or group of age children. What's blocked may not include all the content that we would consider harmful or inappropriate, especially for young children. My second concern is the broader impact of frequent iPad use in the classrooms. There's growing evidence linking heavy screen time to issues like anxiety, obesity, and reduced emotional and social development, especially in younger children. These effects don't show up right away, but I know many families are seeing this at home already. I applaud the district for examining the phone use and mental health. I'm asking that you might do the same for the iPads, especially in the early grades. Let's take a hard look at how they're being used, when and why, and whether it's actually serving our children for their long-term growth. I'm not anti-technology, but I am for thoughtful, developmentally appropriate use. Right now, I don't think we're there, and I know that I'm not the only parent who feels this way. Thank you for listening. I appreciate y'all's advocacy for our students, and thank you for your service to the schools.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody questions for Ms. Roden? Let me just say, personally, not speaking on behalf of the board, I appreciate you coming here. There are a lot of people that will have thoughts and feelings, but it takes a lot to come and speak to this board in public, so we appreciate that. I appreciate that.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So your son went through most of the year without the iPad except for those testing
Correct.
opportunities. Do you feel like the district still was able to engage with him in terms of learning and assignments and work? I know kindergartens may be different than an
Right.
older child, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, so the state testing was all able to be done on paperwork. The only testing that had to be on the iPad. So after we had our issue, I came back and I said, no iPad at all. And they said that the iPad had to be used for the district testing. That was the only place where they couldn't use a paper substitute. I do feel like the teacher was very accommodating. She just would print things off, and I said, I can come make copies. Like, I don't want to put more work on you, but both the principal, the teacher, everybody was very accommodating to that. I think the struggle was more, all the other kids in the
Sure.
class have it. Mommy, why can't I have it? Like, they're doing all these fun things.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, since we had you here as a parent raising the issue, I mean, I can ask Sarah Collins and others, hey, how do we accommodate students that don't want to, families that don't want to
Right.
use the iPad? But since you were here, I thought I would just ask, just to make sure that we're still delivering a great Midway education.
Yeah, they did. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Ms. Rodman, I mean, I know you have your friends, you're probably involved with the school, everything, things at the school. Do you have a general idea of how many people you said might also not want their children, at least at the kindergarten age, to have iPads? Okay.
So I just kind of offhand have said things to friends, said things. And I know of at least 10 people in my circle who have either pulled their students from Midway or are having issues with some of the technology.
Okay.
And I don't have a big circle. But
No, that's okay. Of course, at school is important what you're doing. You also wonder how much screen time they're getting at home, right? So a
Right.
combined usage of screen time could be different. Yeah, so that's curious. But-
yeah, and I kind of find it interesting, like we were sent home some bingo cards a couple different times throughout the year, and one of the things was a day of screen-free
Was
thing,
what,
and
I'm
I'm like,
sorry?
well, we can't do that on school day.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
That is kind of
That's
funny.
ironic.
But
What-
thank you for speaking, like Pete said, it is a challenge to come and speak in public, so thank you for doing that. We want to hear everybody's voices and understand what's going on, so thank you.
Jesse, so remind us, the iPads in elementary, is it K through 2, they stay in the classroom, or is it K through 1? When is it that they're in classroom only? Or is that a Sarah question?
K through 5, I think. K-5.
Oh, they stay in the classroom for all, they don't go home until middle school? Okay, so it's been a while since I've had an elementary kid, so just remembering.
Do we have data on how much time during the classroom they're actually on their iPad?
That's what I was just thinking.
I mean, do we have it?
Well, and what apps they're using for those
Yeah.
times?
We actually just enrolled a new product from the same company who makes our content filter. It's called Digital Insights. It will show you all the platforms that they use throughout the day. It will show you the number of interactions they have with the platform, and it's straight from the platform. And it's something that's not approved or wasn't properly vetted. You can choose to block it straight from the platform, and it sends that right over to our content filter, so it blocks it on all the classes.
And is there also a lot of leeway with the teachers of how much they use the iPad in the classroom? Or is it a pretty set curriculum that they're all going to do the same things on the iPad? So if they're all doing their ABCs, can some do their numbers as well? Or does anybody know how that works? Would that be a curriculum question?
Yeah, speaking of curriculum, especially in elementary, we look at what best practices are for the age group. So think about our younger learners, they may be using their station time or pulled in a smaller table or smaller Greek instruction or math instruction. But most of the time, it's making the best use of the technology to answer lessons. But we can talk about best practices for ages.
Okay.
But it's not required. Classroom to classroom, generally our teams putting together for what makes sense for their age students.
Okay, so could be quite a difference between Class A and Class B, how much time they're on the iPad, if the teacher finds some other things to do on the iPad.
And do we have data then on how many families have said, no iPad please for my student? Do we know, like by grade or how many?
We can pull the report, I don't have it in hand. It's not a large number.
Well, I didn't expect it to be, but to me, it's interesting that we are 8 years into the one-to-one. How long has it been? We've been doing this a while. 12 years right into, 13 years.
That was 32.
Whatever the number is, it's good.
Over 10 years.
More than 2 and less than 20. But just to get a sense of how does that sort of shaken out now? Because I think a lot of families have had a chance to have multiple kids come through, and maybe that makes them more familiar or more comfortable or less, I don't know. So don't create a bunch of extra work for yourselves, obviously, but it will be interesting to see.
Can I say, a lot of people that I tell I declined the iPads did not know it was even an option.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So I will just have
All right, anything else from Ms. Rhodes? Anything else from the board?
Thank you.
Sounds like a conversation, I appreciate you bringing forward, but let's keep the conversation going, for sure.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. All right, we have the SHAC Annual Report and Student Support Services update. Anne Marie.
glasses on. Have to choose. I can either see you or my paper, so sorry. Good evening, and thank you so much to the board for the opportunity to present an update on student support and mental health services for 24-25. I also combined this with the SHAC update, so one presentation, here we go. I need that. Thank you. So looking at this framework, you can see that it spans a wide range of services and includes many of our support personnel. So our campus counselors that we have on all of our campuses, our social worker, our district at-risk mentor, staff counselor, communities and schools, Claris, interns, all the people that play a role together in supporting our students. These partnerships and interventions are critical in helping our students and staff thrive. I did want to give a shout out and thank you to Dr. Odejima because she took my mental health experience and expertise in some areas and her curriculum expertise and really put us all together in a room to say, it's important that we look at all of this to support the whole child, including all of our curriculum and special education. And so that when we're having conversations, we meet weekly, we're looking at how to support all the areas that we can to help build our students and make them the best that they can be. And so you can see many of the different things that are included in this and then the way that we support that framework. In our staff counseling support, this was the first time that we hired a professional counselor to provide services for our staff. This was in response to staff surveys. In that, some staff responded and said that they would really appreciate if there was a way to get some more mental health support for them. And so I think it's been an absolutely incredible addition. From, try to protect confidentiality, so I want to be really careful about what is said, but I did meet with the staff counselor weekly for supervision so that we could talk through any resources that we could connect our teachers with, our staff, administrators, anybody who reached out for the support. It was Kristen Arterberry. I always think that everything you have really is dependent upon the person in those positions, and Kristen was the absolute best hire for this. I think she connected really well with all of our staff, built great rapport and trust. And so she just kind of put this together to say these were the main issues that she worked with all of the staff that she met with. But she provided 317 counseling appointments with staff this year. She was incredibly flexible. She was picking up food boxes and delivering them to some of our staff when they were experiencing hard times. She made phone calls with staff members to agencies when they needed housing, when they needed family support, when they were suffering from grief and loss. So it was really an incredible blessing for so many people this year, and she did a phenomenal job in that. I'm just really, really proud. And thank you to Dr. Knutson and her staff and HR for helping us figure out a way to make this be something that we could provide. Sometimes it was just a staff member needing somebody to sit with them and make a phone call. Who can I call? Who can I reach out for this support? So it was very, very needed and utilized throughout the year. Our Hunger Free program, always like to provide an update about that. And you can see historically how many bags that we've been giving out over the years. This year we were up to 360 bags, and you can also see the increase in cost that goes with providing those bags. So total count was over 12,000, almost 13,000 bags of food delivered that our pals packed for us and made those deliveries to campuses. If you include our holiday boxes, we're over 13,000 food products that were provided to families this year. We did something new this year, and on the 100th day of school, we did a district-wide challenge for raising funds for Hunger Free, and in that one day, we raised over $18,000. So I was very, very excited and proud of all the efforts from our campuses. Cappy Edwards with Spring Valley is like, bring on a challenge. And so when we said, she looked at the numbers from the year before of campus contributions, and she said, oh no, we are going to beat that this year. When she submitted, they did a spare change challenge, which I think actually broke the bank. And so their change machine, coin machine, so it took a while. She said they'll revamp for next year. But that original calculation was around $4,000. They also did a holiday run and raised another, I think, $1,300. So they were about $5,400 that just that campus raised. So we were very, very grateful. And then you can see the picture of all the support. It really is a team from PALS Packing to our not food services, our transportation department that schedules the pickup of the food for us and makes the delivery. And so many people are a part of that, and we're really grateful. Yes, yes.
Said with the spare change, we raised $18,000, so we definitely covered our costs this year. But how much outside money are we getting to help supplement this cost? I mean, I know it's maintained itself, but I just want to make sure
it does,
as it grows.
And from contributions from people like you, Mrs. Vick. So thank you. The Nacho Daddy Car Show that was held this weekend, they'll contribute part of that money. Our pals go and work, and then they give us proceeds from that. Whataburger gave us $3,000. We also, for the first time this year, did a option for staff to do a payroll deduction, and so we got money coming in every month from that. And so it just, I think the awareness and then the communicating with our community partners what our needs are, we just continue to bring in funds. This is the best year that we've had, so it's great.
That's great to hear. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Then I had one question for you about this teacher counselor.
Sure.
You said this was the first year we did that?
Yes.
Do we have the funds to do it again next year, or was that funded by an outside source?
I believe, what are you shaking? I said yes, but maybe, are y'all telling me bad
Do we know if we're
news?
going to do it again next year?
Starting the school year with the intent of doing it
Okay.
next year.
So obviously it was not, if it was outside funding, we lost that? It
Well,
needs to be inside?
so we were using some funding that we were getting as part of the, what do you call it, Ash?
The health, yes.
We have a health and wellness budget that we were kind of funding it out of because of the demand that you're seeing here.
Right.
What we're actually wanting to be able to do is increase the hours some. So we won't be able to do it exclusively out of that budget anymore. So we are doing everything we can, given the current state of budgets in the state of Texas, to hang on to it, is the way I know, is the best way I know to answer that.
Right, okay.
It is one of the half positions that was approved in
Yes.
the spring.
Yes.
To convert it to general budget from that health and supplemental.
Okay, well, it sounds like something that's needed, so I was hoping we were going to continue it if we could fund it.
We are
Okay.
fighting.
All right, thank you. That's good to know.
Thank you for asking.
That's all for right now, so keep going.
Yes. Okay, and then our McKinney-Vento population, so these are our students that are either coded as unaccompanied, which means they are no longer with the parent or a guardian, or that a family may have lost housing. And so you can see the numbers that, just like everything else, when we look at, our need for food and counseling and all the different resources, that our McKinney-Vento population, or our homeless population, has also increased. And you can see that citywide. So even throughout the city, when we look at the increase in the numbers of people that have lost housing, that impacts our families as well. Again, we could not do all the things that we do and provide the resources if we did not have strong community supports. I do think that's one thing we do really well, is that we make sure we are always connected with our community partners. I can pick up the phone and call Region 12 and say, I have a family that lost housing, they need hotel, and then I'll get a call on Saturday saying we've met with the family, they're in a hotel, we've got it paid for a week, we have another church lined up for the next week. So from church partners to the Cove will come and meet with our students. I know, Mrs. White, you've been volunteering with the Cove. And
I want to shout out, if I could, at that time, we have an instructional specialist at Midway Middle School, Adam Miller, who works with our kids and our staff all day, all week long, and then he takes a night every week and then gives to the kids over there. So
yeah, it's
basically, I mean, we
amazing.
show up and we're present, we're serving mashed potatoes, but it's a really neat effort to be a part of, and if that's something you're interested in, you're welcome to talk to me about it. It's an incredible program that was initiated by a former Midway High School choir parent. So very proud of that effort, but proud that we have a community and staff that support these kind of things on their own personal time. That was the point of that story. Also, I'll give you a sneak peek, but there is an interesting fundraiser coming up in the fall for the Family Abuse Center that I will get to be part of, and I will tell you more about that when it is officially public. So
Are
stay
you
tuned.
going to get to dance with the stars?
That's my dream.
I will tell you more about it when that news becomes public. You just gotta wait along with everybody
I
else.
seriously didn't know. That was just me throwing that out, so. Sorry.
No,
The
you're.
website is not live yet, so
You're good.
just stay tuned.
And we did, and I put the Shepherd's Heart Food Pantry calendar up there because we did have several meetings with Central Texas Food Bank, people from Austin, Shepherd's Heart Food Pantry here in Waco, and looked at opportunities to make sure that we were providing food to all of our families and setting up locations. And so from that conversation, Shepherd's Heart met with Harris Creek and opened up another food pantry to serve more of our families in this area. So again, all of our community partners really help us to meet the many needs that we have that we can't do by ourselves. So mentoring, transition plans, and character education. This is vital for re-engaging and supporting our most at-risk students. This year, Colin Zellers, our district at-risk mentor, shared 164 character education lessons in DAP, and you can see some of the things that he talked with. He also presented to our SHAC about that. He did 193 transition plans, and there are questions up there. I always say, you know, most of our kids have a story to tell, and they just want to be asked. And so as a part of that transition plan, it's required by law, any student that's been in discipline placement must complete a transition plan to go back to campus, and that's to help ensure a smooth transition. So they meet with the counselor, they meet with the assistant principal, they meet with their mentor, and then they talk about what are some things that you want your campus to know. What have you learned in your time that you've been here? And, you know, just to, again, really make that transition smooth, but to give the student the connection to the staff too on campus to go back to when there's a need. And then 93 students received mentoring support throughout the year, so that could be a weekly or every other week check-in. You know, it may be families reaching out saying, hey, we've had something happen within our family and we just think our, you know, son or daughter could use somebody to do a check-in. This is from elementary all the way up to high school. Some of these students, and you can see a picture with Cullen and these students, and he did ask permission, and they said yes. You can show our picture if you come eat lunch with us. So he went and ate lunch with them and took an updated picture. So some of these students are followed for several years, and they may say, hey, I'm good. I think if you could just check on me once a month or once a semester. But that support is so vital. I thought it was really good timing because in the ASCA, the American Counseling Association magazine that came out, the focus was on restorative discipline. And so it says it's not about letting students get away with negative behavior. It's about giving them skills to handle conflict better next time. Mm-hmm. Restorative practices help students learn how to resolve conflict productively, rebuild trust and relationships after a conflict, and ensure every voice is heard in the process to take meaningful accountability. So still accountability for the decisions that we make and the choices that we make, but we do that in a way that supports and rebuilds. So I love that. Our community resource fair, this was the second year that we did this resource fair in support with immunization clinic that we provided. So all of our district nurses and our local health community came together to do an immunization clinic. So we reached out to many of our graduating seniors. If you need your meningitis vaccination, you can come and get that. And so I think we had about 30 students that came and did that. But it could also be for students coming into school. So any of our new pre-K kindergarten that might need immunizations, they could come do that. We had 36 community agencies that wanted to be a part of it. So we grew that by about 10 more community partners. The best thing that I think we do with this is, you know, we bring the community resources to the families. So we let them know, and they can come and do a walkthrough and collect so many resources. But also, I said before, most of our community partners get really excited about meeting with each other. And so they'll say, oh, I didn't know you provided this resource. Let's get together. And then they, build even more programs to support our community. So it's a great thing.
Anne Marie, were those vaccinations free?
Yes.
People that.
I think most of them were, but they could also use their insurance. So they asked them to bring their insurance card and do that. And if I say free, I think they said $10 if they did not have insurance. Yes.
And when are we going to have this? When will it happen next?
Next year. We just did this one. We just
had it.
We did.
In May.
Yes. It was in April.
Oh, in April.
We just had it at the end of April. Yes. So sometime next year.
Okay,
Do that
that's
again. But I think it will continue to grow. We always get really good positive feedback from that and participation. Our substance use counseling and education partnership with Baylor continued. This was a 3-year grant. Again, we cannot do all the things, but we can partner with the people who can help us do all the things. And so this grant is a partnership with Baylor. They send PhD candidate students that come in and help provide counseling. They're required to get 10 hours of substance use counseling experience every week. And so they come in and do our substance use education lessons that we adopted last year, the year before. Through SHAC, and so they provide those lessons, and you can see they did 155 hours of lessons with our middle school students. They also provide counseling to any of our students that may test positive for a substance on a drug test at school. So we used to require 1 hour of counseling, and now we've bumped that to 3 because we felt that would be more supportive. And happy to know that many students self-refer. So they come in and say, I need to talk to somebody and I would love to get some support. So we will actually expand this through the summer. We've already sent stuff out, and we'll be offering for some of the students that want to keep coming and getting that support. I did include on here about the vape sensor installation, and I know that that's already been presented, but just to know that there was a lot of parent communication involved in that so that we could be proactive and so that we could communicate what that would look like.
Will Baylor be helping us this summer? Will they continue to send interns in the summer?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. We've already got that set up and ready to go. Our pregnancy-related services this year, there were 5 pregnant students. It also includes support for dads, and so there were 8 total students who received support through the pregnancy-related services this year. 7 of those students were eligible to graduate. Again, everything that we do is about keeping students in school and successful, but then also helping them prep for a next stage of life. And so some of these, it was sitting down and students say, I have a plan and I still have a plan. I just need to know how to make that work now. And so connecting them, we got connected with MCC. We got connected with childcare options. She's very excited about going into a radiology program and working with the MCC staff already on how to make that work, financial aid and all the things. And so these services are provided by Joy Fanner, our district social worker, who helps and just make sure that they're on track to graduate and get the support that they need. And like I said, 7 are eligible and will be graduating this week. Our Communities and Schools partnership we have on middle school and high school campuses. One of the big focuses that started last year was Communities and Schools involvement in truancy, and that really has made a huge impact because they go to those pre-court hearings, our Communities and Schools reps do, and then they hear the story of the family. So why is this student truant? And most of the times there's a reason, there's a story behind that. One student in particular, there was truancy because the parent had had a stroke around spring break. There was a 4-year-old at home that the parent could not care for, and so the child was missing school to stay home and take care of the 4-year-old. Well, Communities and Schools gets that information and then says, what can we do? And so they start connecting the family with all of the resources. But not only that, they come back and say, hey, to the counselor, want to make sure that you're aware of this because we heard this, and so this student may need support from you. And then they communicate with the younger siblings to say, here's more information, and maybe we can get the student connected with pre-K or programs. So it really does make a difference. And I was going to mention this later, but I'll say all of our programs interact with each other. We meet monthly, from Claris to communities and schools to our campus counselor, social work, mentor. We meet every month, and we bring in all of our community resources throughout the year to keep us updated on what's available for our families. And most of these kids get multiple touch points from people. So communities and schools may refer somebody for mentoring support, and mentoring support may refer for mental health services. And so it really is such a coordinated effort that works really beautifully. Our Heart of Texas Behavioral Health is our Claris support that's provided in the schools. So this is our highest level of counseling support. They do in-home visits. They provide counseling services throughout the summer. They meet with families. They do education for families. They do psychiatric evaluations. They can place students in hospitalization when it's needed for care treatment. And so this is our highest level of support. And they're able to connect students with things that we don't have the direct access to do. And so it's great to be able to meet. We can call any one of these people with Claris that we partner with and say, hey, got a student, I need to know status, update, or we need, information for parent involvement in this particular thing. And again, they work really well and provide the highest level of support that we can offer. And then our community resources to support campuses. We did a partnership with Starry this year. They provide free counseling services. They said, we have a lot of counselors, but parents can't leave work. They don't have time to be able to do that, but we can come to you. And so if that's an option, can we sign a memorandum of understanding with you? And then we can pick a couple of schools. You tell us ones that really could use some support. So we picked Hewitt and Spiegelville, and with parent permission and the school support, they went during the day and met with those students to provide services. And then our T-Chat partnership continued, and that's also free service where all of our students that want to sign up for T-Chat get 5 free counseling services through online support, and then if they need psychiatric support, they get 5 additional free appointments. While they're set up with T-Chat, T-Chat gets the community resource guide from us, and then they make sure that the students get connected with the counselor in the community for long-term support. And then they communicate with the family as well about services.
Anne Marie, is
Yes.
T-Chat like comparable? I'm thinking like BetterHelp. Is it that? No, okay.
BetterHelp is a paid service.
Right, yeah.
Yes.
But it is
Something.
online mental health.
It is.
Is it one-on-one counseling?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is, yeah. But it's free. That's what we
Right.
like.
Well, that is a big distinction.
Free is best. Oh, sorry. We're on to SHAC. Here we go. So our SHAC, my job is to provide the updates on all of the things that were discussed by SHAC. I think most of you at this point have all served with me on SHAC at some point in time. And so you know the process and what it looks like and all the things that we cover. Many of the things that I just talked about are always a part of our SHAC meetings too, because it impacts our physical education, our health education, health policies, community resources, all of those things. This year, special thanks to Dr. Allen and Mr. Russick, who served with us on SHAC. It could be we get free lunch, and they're really good lunches, but they were very supportive, and we appreciate the participation and the feedback.
And Marie, is Jerry Snyder still the chair of that?
Co-chair, yes. He and Deanne Klappus are co-chairs, yes. The SHAC, oh, sorry, does somebody have a question?
No, sorry, I said clear my throat.
Okay. SHAC met 4 times this year. We had about 30 to 35 members that were present on average for each session. This year we had, here are our agenda topics for the year. Some of them have already been discussed, but these same people came in and spoke to SHAC. But you can see several of the things that were discussed throughout our 4 meetings. To honor the request of the board, SHAC did take up discussions about cell phone policies this year. And so you can see historically, we kind of follow along with legislative sessions too, because typically out of a legislative session, there will be some task for SHAC. And so we just pay attention to that. And it really aligned well because the board had already requested, hey, look at, cell phone policies, let's have that discussion. And so did the legislative session. So I typed in the beginning of the year, cell phones, and so I could pull all the things that were being, discussed in legislative session. And so there were many discussions about policies around cell phone usage, about mental health studies that were requested to be conducted, and so have all of that. And then there were about 4 that were still following, that recommend policies, and so we'll kind of see where that goes. The cell phone policies and expectations were reviewed by SHAC. They were also reviewed by MAST. So this was a parallel process where everything that was done in SHAC was then also replicated and discussed in MAST, because we wanted to get as many, stakeholders and their input was valuable to us. So in October, you can see an overview where we just started those conversations, positive and negatives, what are all the things around cell phones, and we just opened it up to conversation. In the December SHAC, we reviewed the proposed House Bill 1258, and that was discussing the prohibition of possession of personal communication devices. We looked at sample parent, student, and staff surveys, and then looked at the questions. Did we want to reword, add anything? And then those surveys were sent out. In February, we had Dawn Wabble from Talk More Tech Less come and give us some policy information and some of her legislative action and support that she's been a part of, just to give us another perspective and keep us updated. We also then went over all the survey results, so we had those back, and then we used that for discussion. And then in April, and we had many articles sent after every SHAC meeting to prepare us for the next. So here's everything that's being discussed from many different resources to give us some more input. And then in April, we reviewed cell phone policies. All of the groups shared comments. There were 3 different policies basically that were drafted, samples A, B, and C. Both the MAST and the SHAC favored sample B, which all of you have, and revisions. They asked for some revisions to be made, so the one that you have has those updated revisions. And then I took from that, so from the policy, the sample B that was mostly, everyone's favorite, I guess, with revisions, and pulled what it looks like by grade level. And so you can see there are more restrictions and prohibitions for cell phone usage from pre-K to 5 to 5th grade. And then there are a little bit more freedoms in cell phone usage as they get older, as the students get older. Across the board, there was agreement that there be no use in the classrooms. And then you can see by 6th through 8th grade, they're allowed to use cell phones at the beginning of the day and the dismissal time. And then 9th through 12th grade, there's a little bit more flexibility and freedoms with arrival and dismissal during transition, so hallway time, and then also in the cafeterias. And then all 3 age groups that are listed had permissions and flexibility to use cell phones on the buses. So that's what I have.
So let me, go ahead.
I just had one question of this. From everything I read you sent, it wasn't clear, we may not have decided, but for these, it's not supposed, the phone's not supposed to be used in the classroom.
Right.
Have we decided if we're going to have a bin that they put their phone in? Or are we going to
Yes.
let the student put it in their backpack? Or is
No.
every class going to be different? How's that going to work?
So what we conceptualize at the grade 9 through 12 level is that they would actually have classroom bins or lockers they
Okay.
put them in. I will tell you, part of the reason we haven't given you great specificity, yes, is 2 reasons. And one is we're trying to anticipate legislation that can be coming forward. And 2, those would come at some cost. And so we're trying to process how to manage the cost associated with that. It's not overwhelming. We'll be able to do it. We want to get some feedback from teachers, though, on what that would look like. I want to, just for point of clarity, talk about what it is we're doing with the board tonight and kind of the conversation we're having. So what you have in front of you in this summarized graphic, which Anne-Marie's done a great job on, and then the more detailed, you have in your packet the more detailed, kind of with all the exceptions and all of the ways that we accommodate for students who have need to get to their phones for health reasons or those other issues, is what you're looking at is the SHAC recommendation for cell phone expectations with masked affirmations. So both of those groups agreed that this is where we should land. We're not asking the board for any approvals tonight, and that's for a couple reasons. One, we have historically put our cell phone expectations in the handbook. The handbook does not carry the weight of policy. That's where it lives. And that is common. That is common in handbooks and other places across the state. We could also capture them in our student code of conduct. Our student code of conduct is approved by the board, and so though it's not policy, it carries the weight of policy. That is also not uncommon. You'll see these in either handbooks or codes of conduct. There is also legislation floating around, and Anne-Marie made note of this, that would require boards to adopt policies doing the work we've already done. And so it is not we don't anticipate bringing anything back to the board by way of an actual desire for approval until we got clarity on what may be coming out of the ledge or feedback from the board tonight. If y'all said, hey, put it with the code of conduct, then we'll put it as an appendix in the code of conduct, and you would approve this as part of the overall code of conduct. Paul, when are we going to get an updated code of conduct?
Mid-July.
So because the ledge is in session, we wouldn't see that till mid-July. But it would be folded in, and we remind you of this at that time. If y'all said put it in handbook, you might never approve it, but we would like for the board to at least affirm that you've seen this and you appreciate the work of the SHAC and MAST committees. Knowing full well that no matter really what we talk about tonight, there may be a required pivot if the ledge passes something that requires us to adopt formal policy. So really, as much as anything, it's just a little bit of a discussion about us sharing with you these expectations, again, being recommended by SHAC, affirmed by MAST, answer questions you have about the process or anything else, and then maybe a little bit of feedback on where you'd like to see these captured. This all started when the board charged me with having a discussion, frankly, about banning cell phones. In those days, the discussion we were having was yonder pouches. And we had that conversation. In fact, what Don Weibel talked to the committee about is all the reasons we should ban cell phones. And at that time, there was a House Bill 515, which was looking to do that. It got no traction. You saw the surveys with our parents and with our community and others, and we feel like where we've landed does the best job of capturing the desire for a limited use on cell phones, a more controlled and consistent. I would think the thing the committee might have been the firmest on, and I'm looking at you, Anne-Marie, and Mr. Russick was with us at every single one of those meetings, and so was Becky. No matter what we do, we got to be consistent. I think that was their number one takeaway, is make it clear so that it's consistent. And so you have all that in front of you, and we'd love to hear your questions or comments.
And if I might, relative to your comments, Dr. Allen, I not only was that clear, but the other thing that was clear is the vast majority of parents and staff members, surprisingly not students, thought that we did need to do something about cell phones, right? The what varies depending on who you're asking the question of, but the overwhelming majority thought we needed to address it because it does interfere with the educational environment. So.
And I'll say this too, just as an aside. All of this work, and I keep talking about the ledge may come down with something. I've seen policies that talk about limited use of cell phones during instructional time and some that say during the instructional day. And the difference in those two words for us is fairly dramatic.
Yes.
So we're really kind of waiting to see what comes out of Austin. But this is where we are with the work that's been done by this community.
I don't want to get, we can get into this in a second, but one of my first thoughts, and I've been thinking about this, is the bin versus the backpack.
Yeah.
I have some concerns about using a bin. One, I think that takes a little more time out of the classroom instruction time because everybody's got to come in. The teacher's got to make sure they've done it. Then I would assume before they leave the classroom, they get their phone back. Because my other concern is people taking other people's phones And that could cause quite a lot of havoc in the hall if someone's running, hey, you took my phone, or they don't know who took their phone. And I think that's a real concern we'd have to have using a bins. I hate to say that about our students, but.
Well, they could
those
just
things
get
happen.
confused.
Yeah,
if
they all look
Yeah.
alike. So I think the backpack idea, which is what we used to do in the old days, and it's
The
pretty
old
obvious
days.
if a kid
The
doesn't
old
have.
days for cell phones?
Yeah.
Well, what is the?
When they got
speak-
fined, got their phone taken up and got fined.
Yeah,
you
what
know,
is
to
the
get their phone
conversation
back.
about high school versus middle school and bins versus none?
So Allison, so I'm gonna have Allison speak to what they're doing at the high school, because they're already doing bins at the high school in a lot of classes.
They are.
So go ahead and stand up so we can use that coaching voice there,
Yeah,
Smith.
so they look a little different in each of the classrooms. Some of my departments went together and they bought department bins, like the math department decided they kind of wanted the same thing.
Okay.
Some are using the old-fashioned calculator caddies that you hang up on the board, and as the kid comes in, either they pull a card out with their number, or they drop their phone in, or they have an assigned number. I have some teachers that even have a rolling card that they pull out, kids put them in there, they can plug them in, and the teacher takes the card in and plugs it in the wall, so they can charge them while they're sitting essentially in the, so students will put them in there because they get charged while they're in the caddy. So it's a little bit, a lot of different things. I have
No.
some teachers that have it in the center of the table, and everybody, she gives them 10 seconds to sit down in their chair, get all the stuff in the box, and the box is closed until the last 30 seconds of class, and then she says, okay, everybody grab your phone out of the box from the center of the table. So it's a mix of both, or all, and then some are still with the backpacks, they stay in the backpacks,
But there's definitely time in the classroom to get their phone back in case some kid takes the wrong phone. They can figure that out in the
Yes,
classroom.
and I'll be honest, that has not been.
Okay, that's good. Yeah.
We're not envisioning just tossing them in a free-for-all.
Well, that's
No.
why I'm thinking they
No.
would just throw it in a bucket.
So I can speak to this a little bit from personal experience. My wife does at the high school, is the old-fashioned calculator slot.
Yeah, I like
Instead of
that.
having an assigned number.
Yeah.
She can also look up there and immediately know who's not in class.
Or do-
It's like, look, if the kid's not sitting there, they're
Yeah, or
absent.
didn't
But
get their phone
anyway,
up there.
yeah.
I would say the calculator caddies is probably the most prevalent one because the kid can drop it in there.
Just drop it as they come in, as they
Right
go.
where they're sitting,
Mm-hmm.
and easily grab it if need be on the way out.
Right, okay. Well, I appreciate that information.
I'm not opposed to the classroom caddies, Mr. Witt, at the middle school level, but because they are not allowed to have them out at any point during the day once school starts, it just seems reasonable that, like, a middle school administrator can basically see if we say it, we take it. Like, once the bell ring and the school day starts, so there's no ambiguity in that.
That
Versus
makes
the
sense.
secondary where they're kind of in and out a little bit based on transition times.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I'll say about process and everything else, and you and I had emailed about this already, because it was one of the questions I had about the board packet. I mean, I think it would be appropriate code of conduct somewhere for the board to have said, hey, we bless this, or we tweak this, or whatever the conversation needs to be. But I also know that my text thread conversation with Mr. Green about middle school specifically, him not being here, I would definitely want to have an opportunity to have conversation when he is here, because I know I think we're the only two on the board that have a middle schooler. And I think from my perspective, there's maybe a couple of conversations to have there, but everything else is, yeah, really appreciate the work, because I know it's kind of a lightning rod issue sometimes for some people, so really appreciate that.
Well, I applaud Shack and Mast, and
Yeah.
Mr. Russick was with us during all the Shack meetings. And what I would tell you is, they did a great job of wrestling through this, because there's a lot of thought and feeling about phones. It's amazing, y'all. They're an electronic device, but what they've become in our society. Like, the fact we have to wrestle with it so much is almost indicative of the problem. But I also want to say this, and this may seem one-off or a little bit out of line, or like not the right time, but y'all, you can't appreciate Anne Marie enough for not only her leadership of Shack and what she does out of her office every day, but you know, we started our board meeting talking about the fact that there's been a tragedy with a student, Lorena. And I got a call from the superintendent, and I said, hey, Anne Marie, we may need 3 or 4 people on standby for tomorrow. And she said, I'm on it, we got it covered. You don't know how much you appreciate people who do the kind of work that Anne Marie and our counseling staff does, and some of these others, like from Starry and these other places, to you're walking a family through their absolute worst nightmare. And they're the ones who step into that difficulty and become a source of light when there doesn't appear to be anything but darkness. And so just your work on that, Anne Marie, I just really appreciate it.
Appreciate that, thank you.
She's amazing. So Colin, are you saying you have some different ideas for middle school than what's recommended?
I'm saying I think it would be appropriate to have a conversation with the full board here, because I think Mr. Green's going to want to weigh in a little bit too, just from our conversation. I don't want to speak for him, but I also know that the ledge is going to do what they do, and code of conduct isn't a thing that happens till July anyway. So
We've got
maybe
time.
it's
We've got another month,
yeah, maybe
yeah.
it's a put on the back burner and have conversations
No, that's
between now and then kind of thing.
Sounds good to me.
Well, I would say, subject to what the legislature mandates us to do.
Yeah.
And if it's nothing, so be it, it's nothing. I think it's still appropriate for the district to take a considered course of action. In my opinion, that should absolutely include that whatever the decision is, the full board has an opportunity to discuss it and to then vote on it so that it is board-backed, however that comes to be. If the legislature doesn't mandate that we adopt a certain kind of policy, we'll see what they do. But if they don't do anything,
Yeah.
to me, it's still important that whatever the decision is, it be one that's made after the full board has an opportunity to weigh in on it, and that ultimately it's board action that backs it up. Because I think that's important for our staff to be able to say, no, this is coming from the board. And the consistency piece of it there
Yeah.
becomes important in that regard, in my view.
Agreed.
Agreed. Agreed.
Understood. Okay, thank you, Emery.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thought about that. Before we take up the consent agenda, thank you, Anne Marie, maybe we should pause briefly and revisit that other agenda item that we didn't really spend enough time on because he wasn't here yet.
Somebody might want to speak.
Somebody might want to get sworn in.
Sworn in and have an oath.
You want to swear at me?
Yes, yes, we do.
Interesting.
We're gonna let Colin start though, because
He won't stop.
You're on the spot. Raise your right hand. I, in the name and by the authority of the state of Texas,
That was choppy.
It's awfully late.
It is like,
in the name and
By the authority of the state of Texas, I, Rick Tullis, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of the Midway ISD Board of Trustees of the state of Texas, and I will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States of this state, so help me God.
It was going to be easier than
Yeah.
I never repeat things.
Thank you, Mr. Tullis.
Thank you.
Consent agenda, we have minutes from our regular meeting in April, our special called meeting, what I think is a record number of early graduation requests.
Yes, sir.
I mean,
Does it
wow.
matter now? I mean, it's in 3 days.
You know,
Say,
the E-rate technology matter that Jesse talked about, our food service management company bid for the next school year, and then budget amendments that Wesley had also mentioned. Does any board member wish to remove any item from the consent agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Alford. Oh, I'm sorry,
I'll
Mr.
second
Witt.
it. I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. Witt, second by Mr. Alford. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. I'm looking at you.
nothing to go into closed session for and nothing for recommendation approval.
Lots of new folks.
Lots of new folks. Superintendent's communication. Let's do the part we're going to do out here, and then you've got a communication to make to us in closed session.
Yes, sir.
We'll get there.
Okay, so superintendent communication. Allison, I'm gonna put you on the spot. How many kids we walking Friday night?
It was 665-ish
And growing. Okay. So Friday night, the forecast is looking promising. If you're a praying person, let's keep that going in the right direction. So you have at your dais, in all seriousness, you have some information. You have your parking pass. We will meet per our, Mr. Tullis, we have yours, we promise. Per our usual custom, we will meet in the press box at about 7:15. We'll start making our way to the field. This is not on your piece of paper, but if it's useful to you, we'll start making our way to the field in that 7:40-ish range. We're going to do something different this year we haven't done before, and it's a little bit of an intro video, and then so we'd want to be down there before that starts. And so then as soon as that video is done, we'll start with the commencement ceremonies. And so there's been a lot of talk this evening about a number of different things. Some of it seems to go back to the same topic, which is the need for the people in Austin to understand that you can't run schools on no money. But y'all, that should not distract from or get in the way of or in any way detract from the fact that we've got 670 kids who've made their way from pre-K through high school. And this evening you heard a number of recognitions about the great things that they are already doing that is setting the stage for what will happen next. We got kids with perfect SAT scores and perfect ACT scores and going to the United States military and getting commissions for ROTC scholarships. And kiddos who are soaring and doing things. Y'all, when I got into this business back in 1996, I didn't even know half the things our kids were doing were a thing. And they are just the most amazing young people. And so our chance to celebrate them and not take for granted that, that these families are going to get to celebrate these achievements. Some of whom are represented in this room. There's a Nate Smith and a Zoe Knutson and a Caitlin Orajima and Johnson's got one. A bunch of, I'm going to get in trouble. I'll leave wrong people out. Like, we got a bunch.
Raise your hand. Just say raise your hand.
We got a bunch coming out. And if seniors of parents in this very room, and they've already started with the graduation parties and all that. So there are a lot of things I could talk about, but Mr. Russick, I think what I'd like to end on is talking about our graduates and all that they've done to contribute to the greatness of this district and all that we're confident they're going to do to make our society and our community a better place.
Excellent.
Good words.
We are going
Can I add one thing to
to,
that too? And a baseball and softball team that are still
Yeah.
playing.
Still playing.
still playing.
There will be sweaty people graduating Friday.
State. Can we have our parents and seniors just stand up for a second?
Parents
You've
and
got a
seniors.
graduating senior.
Oh, Foley,
stand up.
yeah.
Wow.
I just want to see still laughing.
Wow. Man,
Did all of you fill out your staff request for your photo on the stage?
that's impressive.
Gonna be a bunch
It's a big group.
Bunch of folks.
cheers on Friday night.
So
A big
I have
old field coming back.
8:58. We're going to briefly,
As briefly as you're allowed to be, sir.
oh, that's a good
Lay it on
point.
us, yeah.
Go into closed session under Texas Government Code 551.0821, 0821.
Sir.
And then we're not going to take any action when we come back out or anything. We're just going to adjourn. If you want to stay and see that, welcome. But
They already did it. Yeah, upstairs.
I don't know, Rick did Rick do it?
Hey, do you want to try and catch Mr. Dawson at some point? Just talk to him. See if he wants to now or catch him between now and then.